Hey, I'm Cher Martinetti from Sci-Fi Wire Fangirls, and today we're talking to Sana Amanat from Marvel Comics about her career and what's next for Miss Marvel. So at the Women of Marvel panels, you love to ask who wants to create comics. How many more women do you see standing up now as compared to when you first started?
I would say it's probably double at this point. We also have like quadruple the amount of Women of Marvel like attendees over the last 4 or 5 years that we've been doing this. So it's significantly bigger.
What about when it comes to hiring female writers and artists? Like, are you happy with that, like the way that's going or the progress?
I'm definitely happy based on where we were, 6 years ago. I think we probably had like one or two female creators in just across the board. And now we have so many more female artists, colorists, writers. It's such a different space than what it was before. And for me, a lot of that is because we have our content is shifting, but also the community has shifted and we have so many more people. Our doors are open and they're interacting with us, and it's giving us a lot of, just great networking opportunities to say, hey, by the way, we're here. What are you doing? What are you working on? And that's just continuously growing. So I'd like to get to a point where we have, a lot more women in our writers' rooms / creative retreats. And I think we're going to get there. Definitely.
And it's obviously been a male-dominated industry. Did you feel like there was more scrutiny on you or added pressure?
If there's any pressure, a lot of the pressure was on me because was very much trying to prove myself.
So like it came from yourself.
I think a lot of it comes from ourselves, right? Like we sort of put this pressure on ourselves to, disprove the fact that women don't know anything about comics or don't belong at the men's table. I think a lot of it has come from definitely having that scrutiny initially and people sort of not thinking that I really knew anything about comics or I deserved to be in the industry. But I will say I had a lot of support at Marvel, and I knew I had the smarts, but at the same time, I think when you're the only woman and you kind of look around and you're the only brown woman, there is this sort of innate desire to make sure that not only do you do a good job, but you do the best job.
So now that you've had so much success, do you feel like there's a lot of pressure on you to like do the next big thing?
Yeah, everyone keeps asking me. They're like, "When are you gonna go and make, another Arab character?" Like, I'm getting a lot of requests of like, "Can you deal with a transgender character? I'm like, listen, all of that is great. I would love to be able to do the next big thing. The big trick is making sure we have the right creators and the right voices. Like, we can't just go and check a box and say we have to create that character because there is a need and a desire. We should look for that, but we fundamentally have to look for those voices that are going to be able to tell those kinds of stories in the most authentic way possible. So hopefully we'll get there as we get more exposure and the fact that we actually have that intention and hope.
Carol and Kamala have had so much influence, like really kicking down doors for all these great female characters. What do you think took so long for this to happen?
That's a good question. I think there's so many different elements that have been at play. I think there's a conversation happening now that wasn't happening before about the importance of representation, about having, characters and characters out there, not just in comics, but in pop culture, that are very true to the way the world actually is, very representative of the way women are versus, depictions that are based on, overly sexualized characters, based on the male gaze, right? And a lot of it has to do with the fact that, we have a lot more diverse and female voices in writers' rooms and behind the scenes who understand that, these are the kinds of stories that they want to see.
So Marvel's really pushed the diversity line. We have a female Thor. We have a female genius that's going to take over the mantle of Iron Man. So what are those conversations or debates like at the Marvel retreats that kind of results?
Yeah. There isn't much. I have to say, all of these characters that have come to be, it's all been very organic. Like there hasn't been a hey guys, can we make, Thor a woman? Great idea, yay. There's nothing like that happens. It's just sort of as, stories are developing and we realize, Tony Stark's going to be taken off the table for a while. Who makes the most sense for us to replace that character with? And now we're at a point where we're much more cognizant of the fact that there is a wider audience there who is much more open to the types of stories that we're telling. So we should start thinking about those kinds of things and start thinking about, like, yeah, ethnicity and race, sort of gender, sort of sexual orientation. And I think those are the things that start creeping up subconsciously when we have those creative conversations. But there's no dictate of saying, we don't have this kind of character, we don't have that kind of character, because then it just becomes, pretty inauthentic, and that's really not how we like to lead our conversations. We want it to come from a very natural place. And with Ironheart and Riri Williams, Brian Bendis just wanted a character for his daughter, who is a young African-American girl he adopted. So when it comes from those kinds of places, it's a lot more special. Once we start telling these kinds of stories, we start normalizing, race and gender and religion and all of those things. And it's not such a big deal to have a character that is a minority who happens to carry, Thor's hammer. It's no big deal. It's just, it's Tuesday.